Alright guys, welcome back to another video from the Medium Cool Show. Today we're going to be talking about some French cinema, or shall I say Spanish-French cinema?
Mm-hmm.
Because today, for the first time on the Medium Cool Show, we're going to be talking about one of the GOATs of all time, filmmakers. We're talking about Mr. Luis Buñuel. And the film we'll be discussing is Belle De Jour from 1967, starring the illustrious, beautiful, magnetic Catherine Deneuve, who I love. I love Catherine Deneuve. She's one of my favorites of all time. She's up there, top 5 maybe, honestly. Anyway, Belle De Jour, you and I are fans of Luis Buñuel.
Yeah.
Would you say?
Oh, yeah. I'm surprised we haven't talked about him on the show yet.
I know.
He's so influential. He's so fucking, just his movies I love so much, dude. They're so cool. They're so dreamlike. Very, very, one of the fathers of abstract cinema.
Surrealism.
Yeah.
One of the four founders, not just surrealism in film, but surrealism in the 20th century. He's one of the main figures of surrealism in the 20th century. And him and Salvador Dali and Man Ray, all those guys, they're the figureheads, and he's a main figurehead, but he was able to implement surrealism into moving pictures.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's a real artist.
Into moving pictures.
Yeah, moving images, long-ass career.
Yeah.
Highly recommend you check out other of his films. But today we're talking about Belle De Jour from 1967, starring Catherine Deneuve. I love this movie a lot. One of my favorites from him, probably top 2, if I had to say.
Yeah.
Absolute masterpiece. We can admit that, Luis Buñuel, he's a horny, kinky bastard, but this movie is nothing short of a masterpiece, in my opinion.
Yeah. I don't think there's anything wrong with him being a horny, perverted dude.
No,
he puts it in his movies perfectly,
Yeah.
He very much understands, the idea of having these kinks and fetishes that we all kind of bottle up in everyday society, and we just walk about life it's normal. He wants to kind of expose the debauchery of our society, and he does that a lot in all of his movies. He's always unraveling society in some way, and
he's a one of a kind. He has his own cinematic language.
Oh, definitely. And you go into a Buñuel movie and you're always okay, I don't know what to expect. I get the premise. I understand what it says on the box, but it's gonna change. That's not gonna be what it's about. And there's always something that it evolves into, and something that it says about French society at the time.
Yeah, and I think to truly understand this film, where we're coming from, we have to kind of look. And I think when we arrive at Belle De Jour, we actually have a way more straightforward narrative than his other films. Even though there are surrealistic aspects, this takes on a more fantasy, dreamlike in the character's head. What's real and what's not. And, basically, you want to talk about the premise?
Yeah, basically we follow Catherine Deneuve, right?
Yeah.
And she's in this marriage that she's just not fulfilled in, right? She's married to this very successful doctor. They have a fucking amazing house, a maid, and everything, but she just doesn't feel sexually fulfilled. And it's not because of anything he's doing. He's trying to be patient with her. She's definitely very cold to him. It's they sleep in separate beds. She's distant.
The fire is not there. Sexually.
Yeah.
And he is just kind of emotionally distant from her and kind of emotionally detached and unavailable right now, in this part of her marriage, even though she's 23 in this movie.
Yeah.
And there's a need that there's an emotional sexual need that's not being met in her home. And that's kind of what the driving force is, because she has these fantasies, these very erotic sexual fantasies of other men and stuff.
Yeah, with other men and her husband in them, and just orgies or whatnot.
Yeah.
And she wants this. She wants to explore this part of herself that she's so young in a marriage, and she never really had time to explore this side of her, these fetishes that she's interested in. The whole beginning of the movie is her deciding if she's going to act on these or not, and the way that she finds out how she's going to do it is she finds out at the country club that they go to there's a girl that started, what is it, like prostituting?
Escorting at like a high class escort house.
That's a good way of putting it. Like high class escort.
She's a high value escort, yeah.
And she's really interested in that, so she kind of digs around, and some guy at the country club who's friends with her husband tells her like, this is where I used to go. She eventually goes there, and she kind of starts like, you know, talking to the person that's in charge,
the head madam,
yeah, and she's like,
who runs the brothel.
Yeah.
Like she visits the brothel and meets the head madam of this very high class brothel. All the women there are really gorgeous. Even like the head madam is gorgeous as well. It's not just like, you know, like a sleazy brothel. This is like very upper class, like only like the 1% or probably could like go and like afford like having, you know, sex. So just like it's expensive. Like that's just like, it's a very classy brothel that she starts to actually get involved in and becomes the head escort there.
Yeah,
because she's so beautiful.
She's so beautiful, but also she's so passionate too. Like that's what I feel like, that's kind of what they're getting at, that she's like missing in her marriage. It's not just like the like kinks and like all the fetishes and stuff, but it's like the passion that's like she feel like isn't there sexually. You know what I mean? She fucking learns that she loves it. You know what I mean? Like she loves this like part of who she is, and she loves like accepting it. She like starts to like become like a more fulfilled person, you know. And her husband starts to notice that. He starts to notice that she's distant, but he also is like start to notice like that she's happier. You know?
Yeah,
and he can't really tell like what it is.
Yeah, and the thing is she's a day escort. She doesn't work, and like she stops work I think at like 3 in the afternoon or 5 in the afternoon. Like she's like, oh, I only can be here until like 3 in the afternoon because like I have my own. She has a whole separate life like with her husband, like outside of the fact that she starts working at this brothel. So she's like a daytime escort. Yeah, you know, which is like a really interesting aspect.
That's why it's called Belle De Jour.
Yeah, and her name, no, that's her. So her name is Séverine, but the name that the madam gives her, which is the name of the film, is Belle De Jour, which translates to,
I think it's like Beauty of the Day, right?
Something
like that.
Yeah, Belle De Jour, and it's a great name, and she becomes basically like the most sought after escort there. Like the guys, like all like the men that go visit the brothel want her. And then we get the introduction to this guy who's like,
what's his fucking
his name is like Marcel Riviera, dude. Bro, I just want to talk about the way that they don't dude, the whole sequence of when they first introduce him, like you don't even see his face at all for like the first, like the way that they build it up is like so shooter ass, greasy ass little like thug motherfucker who starts visiting the brothel with his friend, and he's like unhinged too. He's like not like you describe this guy from the beginning because like I want to know what you're. Yeah, so I mean, the camera's not on this dude, right? Like you clearly like we're on the street. Always like the back of the head. We're following like this guy with like a hat, you know, and like we know that they're like gonna pull some shady shit. We don't know that they know each other, you know, but like basically there's 2 guys, and they rob this guy for this like bunch of cash. Then they go straight to the brothel, and we find out that, you know, this guy with the hat is like some Spanish guy that they're like, fuck, like this, like every time like a new person comes in, the escorts will always be like, oh, this guy again, and like, oh, here's the story with this guy, you know, and like, but this guy, he's like kind of like, what is it called, like he's unpredictable, right? His friend's even more unpredictable, and it's this guy named Marcel. And he's this, like, fucking, like you said, greasy ass, fucking weird looking dude, gold teeth. Like, I guess his teeth, like, he fucking lost most of them. So this actor has a really interesting look. Yeah. Like, it's hard to describe what he looks like because I can't tell if he's handsome or gross. Yeah, he's like, it's really weird. He's unique. He has a weird, creepy look to him, but also handsome, but also like nightmare fuel type guy. Like this guy looks like really mischievous. Yeah, I haven't seen anyone like this in like I don't know how to really describe this guy, but he's like wearing like a leather trench coat jacket, greasy black hair. Yeah, younger dude with a cane. Yeah, looks like he smells bad, and he starts seeing Belle De Jour in the daytime, and then he slowly starts to get more like he develops feelings for her for sure. He becomes like addicted, you know, and she falls for him too. Like we have these like surrealistic qualities in other films, and in this one we have like more of like a fantasy type shit where it's like we see like imaginations, like her fantasies come to life.
Yeah. I love the scene where she goes to that super rich guy's house and like she
Oh,
has to
yeah.
get in the coffin or whatever, and
Yeah.
like she's getting made up for that, and she has to stay like completely still, and he's like, "Oh, you were my daughter, and I loved you so much." Like really fucking weird, you know? And she's like, Bunuel's just exploring like these like really twisted like dark fetishes, you know, in like a very like nuanced way for the time.
Yeah, it's like funny. Like it's a really funny movie.
Yeah, this is definitely up there for me, but I think I like Discreet Charm and Phantom of Liberty the best because like those are like as surreal as it gets, you know.
Yeah, that's like very like creative, pushing the boundaries of like what you see. Yeah, I would say like Phantom Liberty and then this one. But I may have to put this one first because I've only seen Phantom Liberty once and it had a big impression on me, but I've seen Belle De Jour twice now. And I don't know, just like a fuller appreciation for it. And I feel like I can watch Belle De Jour. I can recommend Belle De Jour more than just jumping into like his other like surrealist stuff. Yeah. You know.
What do you think of Exterminating Angel? Did you like that?
I haven't seen it.
Really?
Yeah, I haven't seen it. That's a black and white one, right?
Yeah, it's black and white. It's shot in Mexico.
Yeah, that one has probably more of like a classic Hollywood type vibe to it.
It definitely does. Yeah, but it's still surreal in a sense, you know.
Yeah.
And I can tell definitely of like, you know, he's definitely so influential in film, like without people even realizing. You know what I mean? Like all A24 movies would like kind of owe their like royalties to Bunuel in a way, because he really like paved the way for like surrealism and surreal storytelling, but still being like entertaining and compelling and like funny and emotional, you know.
But this movie deserves its place in the Criterion Collection as well.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Yeah, Luis Buñuel. If you've seen Belle de Jour, let us know his other films that you've seen and that you fuck with. So
peace out. Keep cool.